Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining our program today. My name is Danielle Emmerich. I'm from the South Brunswick Library. I'm going to start with a short introduction of Chaiti, who is our moderator today and creator of this program, Chaiti Banerjee. This is the second year that Chaiti has volunteered to spearhead putting together a panel discussion for Women's History Month, and we thank her for her efforts and the great panel she has assembled. Chaiti Banerjee is a technology leader, board chair, and STEM advocate dedicated to the education and empowerment of women and children worldwide. She is a USA member and is actively engaged with the Women Affinity Group and also promotes international peace and justice. She created her blog Nove to promote inner happiness and attain a higher purpose in life. Chaiti lives in Princeton, New Jersey with her husband and 2 kids. Thank you so much, Chaiti, for contributing your time, talents, and connections to make this evening's event possible. At this time, I turn things over to Chaiti Banerjee.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Danielle. Really appreciate. So I was just going to start with good evening, and then I realized that that is organic to say, but then I realized this is not evening for all of us. For our panelists, I know from different time zone. So this is today, and I really today I want to. I'm very grateful, thankful that I'm able to join all of you today. Is the feelings of deep gratitude, and I know our esteemed panelists. They are very busy with their professional life, their personal life, and their volunteer activity. I would like to thank you all our attendees who are able to join today. I know it's Thursday, weekdays, and maybe a tiring evening. But your join this event would make great impact because it is for all of us and to carry over more in the future. So today's topic is we're actually celebrating Women's History Month. So today's we pick like gender equality and equality. So how it is important. So I will start with that I was listening one of the video for Gloria Steinem. So she gave the statistic and shared that if women are paid equally um, in the United States, and there would be $400 billion more in the economy. So she was also saying that we can see this in two perspectives. That one, that how much disparity is there, and also can hope that if we can fix that, then that much economical growth can be possible. And of course, with the woman will not be putting this in a Swiss bank. Will be investing in this economy. So that is one big aspect, the economics. If we are maintain the equality and equity, but not only economy, it impact us all. It can help us on in all perspective. Policy making, politics, and peace and security, and science and technology. So, being an Indian origin, I give track of this Indian news, what is going on there. So, I was hearing in recent past that women's in the front for the COVID vaccinations and moon missions, and also the recent ballistic missile. All these women's are leading in the front. So whenever you're talking of the gender equality, it is not in current era good to have. It is now must to have. And not only like, and personally, it inspired me to move forward. Of course, many examples are there, romance from the history to now, but every day, especially through my working in the social service and even in US, I meet many women, brave women every day that who not only are brave enough to pull themselves the event like personal trauma like trafficking or domestic violence, but also they came forward to do something for more. They could have choose a life for stable, peaceful for themselves, but they don't. They are not doing it. They're doing for others too. So that's motivate me. And one sentence resonating in my ear, still, I spoke with the lady. She's telling, whenever I see another child is killed or injured for the trafficking or violence, I see my kids on there. So from there, my personal motivation is coming to do more for the woman, for the society, for the human, for everyone. Also, I have a little background. My paternal grandfather was a freedom fighter, and after India got independent, he joined active politics. From there, all these inspirations coming. So we have very esteemed panelists. We have Joanna, Dr. Joanna, Connor Raj, Cindy, and Kate. So I will come to introduce Dr. Joanna. I would love to introduce her. So Dr. Joanna is an international lawyer, doctor of public policy from Poland. She works as a legal advisor and subject matter expert to various military institutions, primarily NATO Center of Excellence, and as a fellow at the United States Marine Corps Brute Fruitlag Center for Innovation and Future Warfare. Dr. Joanna did her postdoctoral research at the Faculty of Law, University of Bergen, Norway, and PhD studies in New Zealand at the Faculty of Law, Victoria University of Wellington. She is the author of many publications and various legal opinions. I would specifically mention the book Regional Policy in South Pacific. I started reading that book. Her areas of expertise are the law of armed conflict, that is lawfare, legal culture in armed conflict, NATO legal framework, and the Indo-Pacific region, Pacific law, and maritime security. Joanna, welcome and thank you again. So if you could share with us your viewpoint, perception, what is gender equality and equality mean? What does it mean to you and why it is important?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chaiti. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to be here. You are experts in your disciplines. You are people who are driven by passion to make a change. And this is what matters to me. And every opportunity I can take to empower other people, I take with honor and humility, because I've been there myself. I'm still in like beginning, mid of my career, but I know that many younger women, girls, they write to me, they check me on my social media, they ask for advice, so I can see that my voice is heard. And like even this morning, I received 2 messages from girls from different continents asking for some help. What can they do to be like me? And I'm always like, no, come on, this is taken. Be yourself and get the most of it. But yes, law of armed conflict and what I do, what I teach military civilian participants when I'm during military exercises. I always say, because again, I will not sugarcoat and say that everyone is for gender equality, that everyone wants that and everyone would fight for it. Absolutely not. It depends on the culture. It's not the same in the US as in Europe. It's not in different continents. I would even say that in many military units, there will be strong opposition. But then what I say, as a pragmatic lawyer, I'm like, okay, guys, but this is for your own benefit. This is for your own benefit to have females' perspective, to have them on board, to protect yourself, your unit, to accomplish the mission. So I always try to portray the situation that having women, giving them opportunities to share their knowledge, it is for like benefit, not against us. And also in my projects, and I will try to maybe ship to the library some of the recent books. Okay, this is something wrong with the camera, but whenever I am writing a book, editing a book, organizing a conference, I'm trying to make 50-50 participation of male and female participants, because what I also hear from manels, so panels with males only, oh, we couldn't find any female expert. Well, try harder. There are many women, eloquent, articulate, intelligent, but they are not promoting themselves. And that's another, I think, cultural issue, that women might be like, no, maybe I shouldn't, what I have to offer. And again, like we have so much to learn from one another. And one of the things I adore in men, good men, is that they know their value. And for us, we are like, should we? I don't know, maybe it's too much, maybe it's bragging, what other people would say. But then again, my own story proves that the more bold I am, the more I am myself. So it's not being too much. This is just me. And if that is impactful on other people, especially younger females, girls, then I can make a change. And especially in this environment, and my military colleagues know more. Me as a civilian in this world, I can only observe, and also as a lawyer, I have my own legal lens to that. But also, what you are doing here, Chaiti, is beautiful. It's important, because even if because of today we will make to change one person's life, just one, it's worth it. It's worth it that I'm here from Poland in the middle of the night. Your guys during your working hours. We do this to show that it's possible. It's not easy. It will not always be like, you know, with a lot of support and encouragement. But again, when you are on this path, and that's how I met Cindy, I was surrounded with good people, the better people, and they were okay, have you talked to that person, do you know that person? So again, like good energy, then you get more and more. So yeah, I will stop here, because I could talk about it for long hours. I think it's really, it's good that we are doing here, and I know that results will come.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, you joined in this middle of the night almost. Thanks word is not good enough to show my gratitude for you. And many of the things I can relate to you, like, the woman has this hesitation. Should I go? Is my ambition is looking like an aggression? So previously I used to say maybe this is my background. But then when I came to here and I listened to you, it's a little bit universal. It's not because I came from certain and certain culture or country. It is universal. So we need to stand forward. And what we are asking is not a privilege, extra privilege or reservation. What we are asking is just equality, just a pavement of path where we all can work together. So now I'll come to Raj, Colonel Raj, because it's very important, because being I think someone is joining. Okay. So being a mother of two boys, and supported many men in my life, like my father, my husband, many professional mentors who are men. I cannot just say, okay, we only need women's empowerment, or women only can do it, or this is the one only. This is neither pragmatic and nor biologically, organically. I can want it. I do want it, because I want for everyone growth. I have two boys. So Raj, thank you so much for joining with us, and your elusive matter for us. So I'll shortly introduce Raj. So Colonel Raj Agrawal is currently assigned as a Commander, Space Delta 2, that is Space Domain Awareness and Space Battle Management, Space Operation Command, Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado. So Delta 2 is responsible to secure our nation's interest in, form, and to space. Prior to his current assignment, Colonel Agrawal, served as the Chief of Future Operations, Headquarters Space Force Component, U.S. Space Command. He has also served as the Chief of Space Control Division for the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Space Acquisition and Integration, and the Chief of International Affairs Space Division in the Office of the Chief of Space Operations. I learned myself a lot in his wings because being a civilian and non-citizen of this country, frankly, I was not aware of this. So I learned myself enlightened with those, and which is not included in Raj's professional or official bio is that Raj also promote and advocates for space and STEM for the youth, if I'm not wrong, Raj. So Raj, if you can also share your viewpoint that why and how this gender equity and equality matters to you, why it is important, how it is achievable. Raj.
Thank you, Chaiti. It's certainly an honor as a man to be invited to something like this. It's you went out of your way to make sure a man was part of this, and I think too often men don't do the same when putting a panel together to make sure that we go out of our way to make sure women are involved. I was a school teacher, high school teacher, before I joined the military, and my peers were mostly women. It was rare to have another man work alongside me, and that men were usually in very high demand to try and get men to join the profession of school teaching. When I joined the military, it was a sudden shock to now have exactly the opposite, where it was mostly men, and it was rare to have women work alongside you. And I think a lot of the culture that existed, certainly back over 20 years ago, would encourage women, without meaning to, maybe, to make choices other than the military long term, because the culture was not conducive to, continuing on as a woman in the military. And too often women would make choices to leave, not necessarily because they wanted to, but because the culture maybe would disincentivize being a woman in the military. I think we've made progress, but we definitely have a long way to go. In the military and around the world, militaries, I think, will value physical strength as though somehow physical strength is the determinator of what makes a strong military. But in the current age of military power, we fight mostly with technology. And that's kind of the equalizer that should open up opportunity for anyone, regardless of gender, regardless of background. Yet we're still seeing some resistance there to where it is a cultural norm that still potentially looks down on a woman as opposed to a man, simply because of the perception of physical strength. I was in the Air Force for 20 years and been in the Space Force for a few years now. And I do believe that we've made a lot of real progress and demonstrating that, hey, it actually is a strength to be a woman in this military, and bringing not only to empower other women, that's important, but also as a way to project our values around the world, that we, certainly in the United States and many European nations, that we believe that women are equals, that women ought to have equal access, and that in a powerful team is made up of diversity, including men and women. And so my perspective has always been that women were powerful, and certainly my peers, but it's been an honor over the past couple of decades in the military service to help carry that message and use some of these, like, again, technological power as, hey, all it takes is being able to operate a computer and you can project military power, at least in the United States. So there's no reason at all that there should be a gender preference. And we need to do everything we can to remove barriers to service for women in our military. So I hope that helps a little bit. Thank you.
Chaiti,
Yeah, sure.
if it's okay with you, I'd like to jump in here for a minute, and just say a couple things. I want to echo some of the things you shared about just all of our panelists today and, my relationship with Joanna, we've known each other for several years, and she might say that I mentored her, but she mentored me. And Raj, I have to bang this drum for you, because Colonel Agrawal has consistently for years before he actually became my mentor as an active duty airman and officer, has advocated for women, and not only advocated for women in the armed forces and for civilians and for marginalized girls and communities in STEM, but he continues to rise to positions where he turns around and he brings other women with him and other people that don't typically have a seat at the table. And what he's also not going to say is that he was one of the loudest and boisterous, effective champions when he and I actually worked together to stand up the Women's Initiative Team for the United States Space Force, which has done significant changes and overhauls to really widen the path for more dual military couples to serve. As a mom who served on active duty, married to another active duty service member, there were a lot of changes that were made, not only to increase representation for women, but women of color from all backgrounds, but also families. And that in turn strengthened the national security of the United States and increased our presence, specifically in the Pacific, during this emerging strategic competition. And so I kind of want to put that out there. And Kate, Kate is a staunch advocate for women around the world and for young girls around the world as well. And she is just, really using her voice to raise awareness around issues that are just, people just have to they have to become informed, and so I wanted to make sure that I kind of highlighted everyone, but I really, because Colonel Agrawal he is a constant male voice that continues to use his platform to advance equality and gender equality and inclusion. And he's done so for years. So Colonel Agrawal, thank you, because your work and your leadership widened the path for me before you even met me. And that's what made me want to reach out to you and get to know you when we were both serving on active duty. So thank you.
You're kind. Thank you, Cindy.
Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. Like, you have spoken so much that, of course, I didn't know, and Cornell didn't share that. But thank you so much for sharing that. And Raj, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do, your active service. And today, we and I able to do this, this event peacefully, because we are having this opportunity to sit peacefully with our family, safe and security. But as we all know, nothing is free. Our freedom, our democracy, everything needs to be defended and earned. So thank you for your service. Now, Cindy, I'll come to you. I feel like I know Cindy from decades, but it's not that decades. We are not that old. But I met with Cindy in United Nations headquarters for one of the event, leadership event by USAF. And she is very amicable, again, approachable. And from there, she became my friend and mentor and almost like a godmother for my son, elder one. So I'll introduce shortly Cindy. So Cindy is a globally recognized certified diversity and inclusion practitioner. She served as a vital member of the team that established the Department of the Air Force's first ever Diversity and Inclusion Office. The same thing she shared just now. She is a Truman National Security Political Partner and was recognized on the 2022 Diversity in National Security Leadership and Foreign Affairs Leadership list as one of the country's influential voices in national security. As a nonprofit founder who seeks to empower women and girls around the world, she leads initiatives around the world to address menstrual hygiene, leadership, and professional development. Her effort across all these areas earned her the UNA USA Advocate of the year 2021. So Cindy, yeah, this is just a short bio. I can go on about Cindy. And I'm so honored to serve as a board of director for a nonprofit organization. And so Cindy, if you can share your perspective, how much, of course, it is important to you, and you have already done and doing a lot of stuff, but how this gender equity and equality means to you, and how much we achieved, how much we need to achieve. Your viewpoint, please, Cindy.
So Chaiti, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words. And I'd be remiss if I failed to share that her son, Sean, was our youngest fellow that successfully graduated from our inaugural program last fall. And he is just continuing to do amazing work in the community and in his school. And we're so proud that he's an ambassador for Global Freedom Group. So thank you for your support, because Sean is 12 and he could not have done it without an incredible support system like his mom. So when I think about what gender equality means to me and why it's important, there's so many sections of society and our everyday life that I see disparities or I see opportunities to amplify other women from all backgrounds, right? Something that that I have learned to key into in the different spaces that I do work in is everything needs to be rooted in data. You've got to pull data, you've got to look at trends, and you can only do that over time. And what I have consistently noticed is that when people have pulled data, or I have pulled data, when there are those really small numbers, like, well, there's only 4% of Indian Americans who work in this space, or Asian Americans, or women with disabilities, those numbers tend to be neglected, because to really peel those numbers back and dive into them and figure out why is there only 4%, which is the appropriate question. A lot of times people just don't feel like it's worth their time because it's such a small like number, right? And so this is kind of where I'm going with this is I think of childcare, and I think of how childcare has affected single parent homes, homes where there are two parents in them during COVID and even after COVID. There was about 833,000 childcare centers across the United States, according to Childcare Aware, who's an advocacy group and watchdog for childcare in the United States, that shut down after COVID. And that left an unbalanced burden on women to become primary caregivers and to not get paid for the workload for being a caretaker. And when I say caretaker, I mean everything from children to elderly, sick people. We're talking about washing, cooking, cleaning, helping families with chores. You know, it's unpaid work. Impacted thousands of women around the country and also around the world. UNICEF did a study last year, and what they highlighted was it went beyond the numbers of childcare centers that closed, the numbers of families and women that were disproportionately experiencing the burden of childcare. But they started getting into the negative effects of it, such as the position that women are in to either leave their child alone at home or leave them in a setting where perhaps maybe they're not safe in order to go to work. And so UNICEF kind of dug into that and determined that a lot of the barriers that hinder women from accessing childcare is quality of care as well. Now, if you have kids, then you know that there's a difference between babies and toddlers. You understand that there are needs for them to develop milestones, you know, hit those developmental milestones are very different. And Raj, you're shaking your head, you're a teacher. I'm glad you're here in this conversation. And so you have childcare centers or you have childcare providers that don't have the support and don't have the access to resources in order to properly care for babies, versus toddlers. And then when you take a look at the country's infrastructure, you know, there are barriers when it comes to public transportation or personal transportation that enable women and families to access childcare. And the issues are very unique when you look at a family that may live in the suburbs and they may not have a vehicle. Buses typically don't run in the suburbs. Taxis don't typically run in the suburbs. And so now you're kind of multiplying the stress and the strain that perpetuate poverty and unsafe environments. And now we're continuing to see that rise in the gender gap when it comes to pay, you know, and then you look at the city, there are very different issues. And so I share some of this information as I'm in the process of working with the UN Women's Federation for Peace on this, and we presented this report to the State Department and to the US Women's Caucus in order to highlight this at CSW 68 that's going on right now, to really kind of wave the flag and say this is a serious conversation with serious implications that are continuing to put women and children in unsafe situations because of the disproportionate unpaid workload that women have to do at home and at work, again, as an amplified result of COVID and the 883,000 childcare centers that shut down around the country after that. And that we really have to do better, and we have to come up with some sort of national blueprint so that we're addressing the challenges all socioeconomic brackets. And until that happens, we're going to continue to see that women kind of not being in reach of good paying jobs, getting into positions where they're competitive for different salaries, and that they're not going into dead-end jobs, and that they're continuing to stay on par with their male counterparts. Because again, statistically, women in this country have accessed a higher degree of education than men. However, men are still getting paid more than women. So thank you
Wow.
for allowing me to highlight childcare as a mom of a 5-year-old who really understands the challenge of trying to access not just any childcare, but safe and accessible quality childcare where she won't suffer learning, you know, setbacks or you know, developments because she's at a place where they're unable to support her learning needs.
No, I completely agree and understand because I have 2 boys, 2 kids, and there was a moment in my career, my life, where I was reluctant to give up my career. I don't want to quit the job. So I was feeling like whatever I'm earning almost is going for my childcare for 2 kids. But I still continue so that I didn't have a long break from my career. So I truly understand, but not all women are that privileged. They can have hard time to continue career. A lot of my friends had to take a break. So this is really a real problem. And I went to CSW 68 last week for UNA USA Women Affinity Group, and those are one of the real topic and discussion that we had in this affinity group. So now I'll come to Kate, our Kate Mallory, our youth representation. There is a reason that I included her because youth is pillar of our society. That's how indicate how our society, our country, our world is moving through our youth. And I work with Kate in many events. Last year we did one on human trafficking. With our women's affinity group and Kate's human rights group are collaborated, and many others. So we know each other from UNA USA. So let me introduce Kate. So Kate Mallory is a human rights activist. He is a 2023-2025 co-chair of UNA USA's Human Rights Affinity Group and CEDAW youth leader with UNA Women. She currently works with the United Nations as a member of the UNESCO SDG for Youth Network. Previously, she was youth consultant to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. In addition, she has also represented young people as a delegate to the UN's 67th Convention of the Status of Women, the 2023 High-Level Political Forum, and the UN General Assembly. Kate has also held leadership position as a member of the 100 Millions Campaign USS Secretariat, a North America policy lead with the Justice for Africa Campaign Global Team, and as a student fellow with the Global Campaign for Education US. So Kate, welcome again and thank you for joining us today. So Kate, if you share from your perspective as a youth and as a woman, how this gender equity and equality matters to you and matters to everyone, and, from your viewpoint. Kate, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaiti, for the kind introduction and for inviting me to participate today. So first and foremost, I like to emphasize that, these issues, these human rights issues that we see, like gender inequality, and things that are rooted in that or things that are similar to that really affect everyone, no matter who you are, where you are in the world. And I like to believe that, since we're all on the same planet and since we all since we all have the same goals, we're just trying to get by, we're just trying to support ourselves and the people we care about. It's our duty to be global citizens and really lift each other up, and make sure that we're creating the most peaceful world that we can, not just for ourselves, but for the future generations. As a young person too, that's something that I really like to enforce, especially to other youth around me. I know it can sound pretty daunting, how do you take a stand against really challenging issues like human trafficking, like climate change, like gender inequality, school-related gender-based violence, things that can get, really, really dangerous for so many reasons and can harm so many people. And I think it's important to take into account too that there are spaces that also want to work with young people. Based on my experiences, I found that NGOs like the UN, and some other notable ones, like Plan International, UNESCO, 100 million to name a few, really value the youth voice, and they can see that we're change makers and we really, care, and we really about making a genuine change and making sure that we're all creating a safer environment for everyone. And as some of the wonderful panelists highlighted here, when women have equal pay, when women have equal rights, access to healthcare, when they have room, to take care of their children and really prosper, it has a positive impact everywhere, right? That is a positive impact on health, on the economy, and, happiness and human rights and the state of democracy as a whole. And so it's very important, to really keep human rights at the forefront of all that we do, to respect human rights, to really support each other and we can to make the world a better place and to make sure that we are all have access to the freedoms that we're entitled to have. So that's my 2 cents. And thank you so much, Chaiti. I hope that was a good answer to your question.
Can you hear me now, Kate? Yeah, I was
I can.
talking. Okay. So thank you so much, Kate. I personally know how much you do, and how much it is impactful. And I think more and more youth need to come up with you, and it can bring our nations, I mean US, strong, and also the socially other country, because you do globally, not only for US. So thank you so much, Kate. And I'll just take a few moments to thank our audience. I see a lot of familiar faces. So Professor Nicholas, hi, and I see a lot of and I see the people join from India. That is also 4:30 or 4 a.m. I see my in-laws join. My cousin brother joined. My neighbor from US, they joined, and Latwa joined, lot of familiar faces. So, and also some new friend. And thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate, because when I see people are joining, listening, and taking inputs from the further, we feel like these events become successful and impactful. So thank you. I'll just move on to our next, few question and clarification with the inputs from our panelists. So I'll come to Cindy. So Cindy is a champion for women. She never miss a chance to champion another woman. So I personally can vouch for that. And not only that, many other women, Cindy, help and support. But I personally feel that our sisterhood is not strong enough. We feel insecure sometimes for about other women's success, or we don't actively engage always for helping another woman. Initially, I used to think that's maybe particular culture or particular background or colonization effect, but it's not like that. It's pretty much I have noticed here also. So Cindy, if you can share, if you, what is your viewpoint on that, and how can we, handle that or make our sisterhood or womanhood more stronger, help each other instead of competing with each other? If you can share your thoughts, Cindy.
Yeah, Chaiti, that's a really great question. And really quickly, I think it's sort of kind of a 3 or 4 part answer, but it won't take long. The first thing that comes to my mind is my faith. My faith tells me that I was born with special gifts. We're all born with our own gifts, and we all have a place. It's a very unique place. And I can't say that Colonel Agrawal is any less valuable than perhaps Kate is, because he's a toe and she's an eye or an ear. And so I want to sort of apply that to practical team dynamics. When you look around and you look at a team, you might find someone who's very quiet, they're very observant, they're an introvert. They're not going to be the ones that are out front briefing and making all the noise. But if you pull that person aside and you get them in the right environment and you ask them, what do you think? I think you will be absolutely blown away by what they're observing and the things that they happen to see based on their gifts and their talents, their perspective, the role that they're in, that drives their purview. And then I think if you talk to a different person and you say, hey, what are you thinking? What do you see? It's almost like a flashlight, right? When you shine a flashlight out, it goes kind of like this. So you can't see anything behind it. And that's perspective. And I know we're talking about gender right now. I know that. But if you can sort of take a step back from that, because we can go to that, and in Leadership 101, it's incredibly important to, one, sort of accept yourself and the gifts that you have and don't have. Really great leaders have a very high sense of self-awareness, and they understand where their strong suit is and where it's not. And when you know where it is not, you know who to pull to make up for that. And I think that speaks to security. And sometimes we've got to work on that. I think we have to work through that as we're maturing as people and as leaders. And then, and only then, do I think you're able to sort of drill down into the gender dynamics. So that's kind of that's my thought on how I have personally approached it and how I have found success in doing so.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. I think I got you, from where this is coming. Though this discussion is gender specific, but this is coming more from the different perspective and sense of security. So
Absolutely.
from there, that viewpoint is coming, because I was start reading with the book Sapiens, and that's pretty much saying that due to our very long-lasting human insecurity, many of these feelings are coming. So thanks for that unique, perspective from you, Cindy. So I'll come to Kate now. So Kate, at this young age, you do so many stuff. Like, you don't waste a single time. Like, not only for UN USA, but different organization, and you share. As Cindy mentioned, you inform so many things and share the space. Frankly speaking, when I was at your age, I was not focused that much for advocacy or helping others. The more I'm doing now, more I have a gray hair, I am more focused now. So from where that inspire, you are getting motivation and inspiration, maybe that will help other youth too. So if you can share that, Kate.
Thank you so much, Chaiti. I love this question. So to start, I'd say, I guess my motivation to answer your question, is really rooted in my values and my goals. So my goal after I wrap up my student career, is to work into international law and or humanitarian policy. This has been a long time goal of mine. I knew that I just wanted to do when I was in high school. I'm about to be my last year of college. And so I wanted to make sure that I was really learning as much about the topics that I really cared about as possible to, make sure that I was knowledgeable and getting my foot in the door and really making the change I wanted to see and preparing myself to, do that in the best way possible. And so, for example, one of the issues that I feel very strongly about is protecting the rights of the child because children are especially vulnerable in conflict zones, because at young ages, it's very hard to know how to defend yourself and who to look to sometimes. So I joined the 100 Million Campaign USA, which is a global campaign that aims to beat child labor and child exploitation and child marriage, which are all unfortunately very prevalent issues that impact children today for the worst. And that was a that joining 100 Million was a great way for me to, learn about why do issues like child marriage happen? How can we stop them? What effective policies? How can we get people to really listen to us and galvanize to end this issue that's impacting so many young girls? Um, and the work of the UN is also something that really piques my interest. And so I joined UNA USA to learn more about the UN and to meet like-minded individuals that I could learn from and befriend. And the connections that you make are really one of a kind. And I've met so many amazing people like you, Chaiti, Cindy, Lady T, who unfortunately cannot be here tonight. But you've all been so supportive and so kind, and I admire you so much. And so it's through these communities and these connections that I meet too that really make me feel so lucky to join in on these wonderful NGOs and these volunteer groups. And I just am so grateful every day for the chance to get to collaborate with you and the wonderful people I've come across. So that's really, I guess, the highlight of my work. And, the more I kind of get involved, the more inspired I become to, take on more and to learn more every day as much as I can.
Oh, thank you so much, Kate. And I was I'll echoing to you from the ancient time, still now, in any of the conflict zone, the first and soft target are women and children. So that's so unfortunate, but that didn't happen. Like we read in the history books, and it's still going on in the same way. So your participation on that, I really appreciate because that has to be changed. And I think that's also a little bit of showing the patriarchal society why the women are being targeted in the conflict zone. And unfortunately, the kids also getting impacted. We hear so many unfortunate news about that. And also, but others hand, your participation in the US and global wise give the hope. We have the youth like you, and you give me a confidence as a mom that I did a good decision and choice to give birth my two boys in this soil, because there is a hope. If there is a youth like you, there is a hope in the United States. So thank you, Kate. Now I'll come to Raj, Colonel Raj. I know this question might be a little discomfortable question, but if I may have your permission, I can ask this. Are women still underrepresented in the armed force, means in Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Space Force? Is it still very much a manly game? And can we say, or can you say that more women's representation in this profession is beneficial for the national interest of ours? Raj, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's an important question. Certainly, I think we're at right now 1 in 6 in the military, at least in the Air Force and Space Force, is a woman or identifies as a woman. And when it comes to what's the right number and what's the right percentages, I'm not skilled at that. I certainly know that we consider equality and equity a part of our national power. So when we engage with other nations, and if my organization is engaging with another nation, and I know that that particular nation undervalues or intentionally devalues women, I'll actually send a woman to represent my organization, to be the voice as opposed to me. because I want it to be clear that not only do we consider that an aspiration in the United States military to have women as a part of our strength, and certainly as a, I think too often we want to water down our distinctions in the hope that we'll arrive at diversity. But it is our human nature to protect that, for the majority to protect itself from the minority, and often will use whatever unintentional coercion to subjugate or at least diminish the value of those who are different than us. So I think we have a long way to go to remove those barriers to service, and whatever that number ends up being, regardless of whatever the demographic is we're talking about, that in of itself, I think, is important. You know, that will arrive at something different than what it is today. But we have a number of societal issues that we have to get through as well. So even if the military were somehow to remove all barriers to service for women, we're a cross section of of America, and so all of those things that come into the military that people are raised with, that the biases that they come in with, those are things that we work at conditioning when they come into uniform, but they're not things that we fully overcome. So I think, you know, at least my perspective is we have to intentionally, especially as a man who happens to be in the majority when it comes to gender identity, it's important that I use my position and my authority and my majority status to make room for those who don't have that status, and intentionally invite women to the table, to intentionally say, hey, why are you sitting in the back row? I need you to sit at the table. Or, hey, I want to make sure I hear your voice, and not say because you're a woman, to highlight a distinction, but to at least acknowledge that there may be societal or cultural influences that have unintentionally diminished the voice of a woman. And so I know I'm not directly answering your question because I'm maybe not equipped to know what that right number is, but I do know we have work to do to remove barriers to service for women in the military.
Thank you, Karan, and thank you, Raj. I mean, that's give a lot of clear perspective from active servicemen like you. And that also gives a confidence, immigrant, first generation immigrant like me, like us, that US still can lead in the world. And we all want that. I all want that. But as immigrant, I invested a lot of my time and effort, my life in this country. And mostly my next all generation will be staying in this country. So we want that. But we only can lead the world by example. And that example can be set the people like you or the third person, like all panelists are sharing. So thank you, Raj, and thank you so much. I was just want to share one small personal experience of my how, you know, the allyship, the support of man impacted me or important to us. So when I first came to United States, I came for a master degree, master in computer technology. So first in the US, no relative, no friends, you know, going through the cultural journey. So just after landing in there, I applied for a on-campus job. Of course, that's legally entitled, I can do. So that is a helping a electrician, and that is a knife shifting job. So I applied, I got the interview, and he hired me. So whenever I used to go, it's a night time because all campus is shut down. Then only we used to get. So my job is to helping him to give the bulb or go to the app and help him. So I was not physically fit to do that. So whenever I go up in the ladder, I feel nausea, and most of the time he can leave it, Chaiti, I'll do it for you. And few of the moments when my classmates used to cross across in the library in the evening, I used to hide my face because the family and background I came for, I was not very mentally also comfortable. So then he had another boy classmate, but he didn't fire me. So, and I asked one day, uh, why did you hire me and still not fire me? You know what I'm capable of. So he told, you are the only student, girl student in all of my career, all of my profession in this university that applied for the job, came for the interview and took the job. Only first female students, irrespective of the race. So I didn't want to diminish the spirit. So, and it is coming from a very humble background. So he's not aware of this United Nations, human rights, or all those. He described himself as an old, white, Catholic person. So it's coming just from a humanity background, a helping from a man to another girl. That time I was a girl. So that's how support from a basic point of a man mattered to us. So Raj, that was why it is important, and I invited you. And thank you. So I will go next, Joanna, Dr. Joanna. So Joanna, whatever you does is very inspiring, and not only inspiring in the current geopolitical situation and what is going on, it is very important. So how does your involvement in international law of armed conflict and Indo-Pacific area so help achieving peace, stability, and why it is important to have more women in this area? Dr. Joanna?
Thank you, my dear. I don't know how much my involvement can be evaluated here, but the fact that I believe in abundance, and I think what you guys were talking before, that some people, maybe women are uncertain, and that's why like they fight and not help or don't believe in the sisterhood we all believe here. I think it comes from the position of limits, of the position of lack. And I'm totally against that, because I believe that if I am happy, it doesn't make you feel unhappy. Or if you are rich, it doesn't mean that I will be poor, right? So I think that exactly everything what you just said, that it's not like the military and every other like community is just mirroring the society. So what we can do is really make our efforts and to push and to invite other people, others' perspective. And exactly, it's not because my authors in the books are females. I know that they are very smart. They are just not heard. So for me, it's obvious duty to have them on board so they would speak up. And for many and also young male students, it's first ever time when they have their article published, and they thank me because now they have international publication. And also with courses I teach, and all the things we are working on in different NATO institutions. But then again, I am also very happy that we have a gentleman here, because actually why I was empowered, or because of men, and those were men also. Alvaro, he introduced me, and Cindy, right? And I have those good men in my heart, because they were like, we need to speak, we need to hear your voice, you need to speak louder, because maybe others are not as strong as you. Maybe they have more complexes. Maybe they don't believe in themselves. Maybe they have different character than you have. So what you can do, it's not only talking on your behalf, but for other people too. So as we spoke before, I can observe that on my social media, that really it resonates to many people. Some comments, some like, most will contact me directly via messages to share their thanks. So there is exactly a lot to do, and you mentioned Indo-Pacific and Cindy's residence, of course, Honolulu. So there is a lot to do, and taking everyone's on board is only working on our benefit, because we might miss the case, we might not see obvious facts. Also with climate change and sea level rise, those again are women, children, disabled people who are suffering, because of yeah, biology, men are stronger. So somehow they will work over it. But for those women in Oceania, in small tiny islets, they become even more vulnerable, not only because of societal circumstances, but also now because of climate change. So again, me talking about that, maybe for all of you it's obvious, it's like, yeah, well, it's nothing new, but for so many people it is not. So many people, they don't realize that. They think, yeah, whatever, what's the problem, we are all equal, we have the same rights. Well, on paper, and again, I'm a lawyer, but I'm a pragmatic lawyer. Yes, there are norms, human rights, beautiful conventions, but again, they are not being obeyed. So we must make sure that human rights are being enforced. And that's why also we need military. Because again, the fact that you will not kill another person doesn't mean that other person would not do that, right? For me, it's again like we sometimes must not be naive, about like, yeah, let's, peace and love, it's beautiful. No, it is not. We have more wars, and I dare to say we will have it even more because of the technology pace, because of the access to resources in Indo-Pacific seabed, and all the groups of non-state actors getting more money, getting more influence on other states, our democracies. So therefore, we need everyone on board, absolutely everyone, every perspective, indigenous, minorities, because again, we are in this together. So again, if you don't like it, it's fine, but just think this is for your own security. And I think this argument finally gets to some of my audience when I teach. Thanks.
Hi, Cindy. Yeah, you want to share something?
Yes, thank you, Chaiti. So I want to kind of tag something onto what Joanna mentioned about just the importance of allyship. And I mean, I just can't say that enough because, I mean, truly, when I think about people that have spoken up for me in the room, they were, mostly men because statistically, men have a seat at the table. And I want to share, Cornell did a study and determined that it takes 3 women who are sitting at the decision-making table for 1 woman to be heard, and that is due to amplification. And so when you think about meetings, critical meetings that take place, whether it's a developmental board, whether it's determining who's going to get a promotion, who's going to get the stretch job that leads to the promotion, if there are no women at the table, statistically, women will fall by the wayside. And if you have less than 3 women at the table, statistically, if they begin to adapt to the culture in the room, meaning a male culture, then there's a double bind and it tends to backfire on them, and they're perceived as being negative. And so there's a double, there truly is this double bind that we have to navigate in a very tricky way. It's very tricky. It can be done, but I believe it is very, very difficult to do without that allyship. And when you see it happen, it's really I don't know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because when you have someone that can open the door for you and all you can do is look at the door, you have a hand, you see the door, you want to reach for the door, but you can't touch the door. It really is a powerful thing. And then when you get there, it's critical, going back to the question you asked me before, Chaiti, it's critical to keep that door open and pull at least 1 more woman with you, at least. And I think that as I'm a firm believer, as you live that example, you make a big difference, regardless to whatever negative experiences I've had, concerning gender dynamics. I will continue until the day that I die, opening doors and bringing other women with me. I absolutely believe that is what you are supposed to do. You must do that, and you cannot allow a bad experience to cause you to perpetuate marginalization. So, thank you.
Oh, that's awesome, Cindy. I mean, whatever you just said in a gist is very appropriate, and it say many things. And I was just coming to you, Cindy, that having you and Dr. Joanna, I think is indicating that my personal viewpoint, that's now it is the time that women should have real power, not just a soft power, asking, requesting, advocating from the outside of the table. They should possess the real power. It means in the politics, in the policy, in the international peace, diplomacy, armed force, everywhere. So do you think the representation of the woman is still less in those, when it's come to the real, having real power? We still don't have a female president in this country. So what is, what is your thought process and why it is important for us?
I think that's a really great question, Chaiti. I think that's a fantastic question, and it's complicated. That's my short answer. I think it's very complicated. I think that when you walk down the hallways of the Pentagon, right, they call it behind the glass doors, or if you're an action officer, BTGD. I know you don't miss those acronyms, Colonel Agrawal. And it's basically the C-suite of the military. And when you look at the walls, you see predominantly Caucasian men, and I think there might be one woman on there. However, in the last several years, there have been maybe 3 secretaries of the Air Force back to back to back. And while we don't have a female president, we have an Indian American and African American vice president. And she was the Attorney General for the state of California. And I don't think that that's a small accomplishment. And she graduated from a historically Black college and university, which is almost unheard of. The stigma and stereotypes that are attached to HBCUs, when you're just trying to get a job, and I think it depends on the sector that you look into. I do, but I also think that, and please don't, don't virtually stone me when I say this. I think that any legitimate and solid progress takes time. And it kind of goes back to like almost a recruiting pipeline, because if you don't go back to the root of preparing women for opportunities, which is exposure, it starts at 3, 4, 5 years old. It simply does. And I also believe it starts with us and the bar that we hold ourselves to, as far as excellence and professionalism and exposure and learning new things and trying to, keep up with the digital gender divide and not get left behind in these spaces. I think it starts there. And then, and only then, do I believe we can really expose our young girls and young women into spaces that they can competitively grow into with the confidence that they need to overmatch any male colleague, run circles around them. That's fun when you get to do that. But if we don't do that and we don't recognize that it starts at the beginning, it starts at exposure, it starts in preschool, it starts in high school, right? You can't take a 21-year-old and say, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to fly a jet. Okay, well, did you take these STEM classes? No. Well, guess what? You can't go back to the future to 8th grade and 9th grade and 12th grade and take the prerequisite classes. So, now you've kind of got to work with what you have here, because the alternative to that is tokenism. And I think that really, it's counterproductive, because if we fail to slowly kind of produce this like next wave and generation of young girls and women to kind of launch into these key positions, leadership positions in government, the private sector, academia, you name it, then we're going to just pull random people and they're like, hey, well, she's really smart, okay, I'm smart, but please, I don't know how to like fly satellites. Please don't, I don't want to work for NASA, and then it's sort of, we're creating these barriers and we're kind of reinforcing stereotypes. And so I don't think there's a shortcut is what I'm saying. I think I think we have to take a step back and take a very holistic look at it. And I think it starts it starts from preschool, you know? So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think from where this viewpoint is coming, and I 100% agree with you that it's not only that we can have just a woman sit there. It needs to be another eligible person there, because it's not a reservation you are talking about. You are talking about to make a real empowerment of a woman, and that needs to be start from the very small age, from the elementary or the kindergarten. So we need to real empowerment. We are not seeking for another reserved seat for us. No, we are not. So I 100% agree with you, Cindy. And from there, the children and youth is, Kate, I'll come to you, that what you can suggest so that more and more youth and young generation kids can be involved, how they can be more aware of the what is going on in the worldly affair, global affair, in all sphere. Okay. Kate.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chaiti, can you repeat that? My audio just cut.
Oh no, like your what you suggest that more and more youth can involve in this space. That's as Cindy mentioned, we need from the very small age. So your suggestion for the young generation, youths and kids, how can they involve more, be aware more, and get empowered from the small age?
Sorry, you asking me a question or is that a comment?
Yeah, it's just your suggestion how youth can be involved, like in more volunteering, more empowerment, can get engaged with climate activity or human trafficking or everywhere. Like, what is, if you can share your, in short, some resources or tools or way or inspiration to youth.
Sure. So, I echo that, there's an increasing kind of focus on youth engagement. The UN has a youth envoy or a very high level position, staff member, where they hire, someone to focus on youth issues. They have an office for youth. And we're seeing, well, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of youth advisory positions opening up reserved for young people. So I know, for example, with Plan International, there's a youth advisory council. The UN Secretary General had one on climate change. UNESCO SDG for Youth Network groups together young people from around the world to advocate for education. So there are definitely, spaces for young people to participate. And for some resources, Chaiti, I think you can attest to this. UNA USA, I know, is a wonderful resource for young people to get involved. Not only are there a variety of topics like climate and environment, human rights, youth and women and gender equality, but I found that kind of having communities like that where there's a constant discussion of change that we want to make around certain topics, I found that, it's very easy to get involved because there's, sharing of resources and sharing of projects, and people aren't afraid to ask for help, which I think is a very great thing in the space that we're in. And I've also found social media actually, it definitely has its negative aspects, but I found that can be very helpful too in bringing young people together and connecting with other young advocates in the UN space, or, participating in things like research advisory groups that I previously mentioned. So I think that there's a lot of resources out there. Some organizations name a few, and I think it's important to, never limit yourself and to never kind of say no to yourself. You know what I mean? There's some things that I've applied for that I was doubtful I'd get, but it all worked out for me. I remember participating, for one example, in a youth consultation with the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, where they asked young people to advise them, provide their advice on how this office can help get more young people involved in their mission. And some of the topics that the UN Office on Drugs and Crime covers are very serious, transnational crime, human trafficking, which are no small matters by any means. And I think that's a really great example too of grown leaders stepping up and, saying to young people, hey, we want to hear your voice. We want to support you and we want to work with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate. I know we actually crossed the thanks, Daniel, to remind, and Raj needs to leave. I know that before. So Raj, I know you need to fly East Coast. So if you just before leaving can share how the more girls can get, some suggestion how if they want to pursue the career in your field. I mean, it can be applicable to boys, but especially the girls. What will be your suggestions?
Well, I'll tell
And
you,
also how boys and men can be ally. I know they're running out of
yeah, I
time.
think, I would say that, the way that men, and boys should be allies, I think I think it should, I liked what Dr. Joanna talked about, which is this idea of we think of things in terms of scarcity or abundance. And if we think that someone else gets something, that maybe we're less likely to get that thing. And that's such a twisted mindset. And I think we work so hard at trying to succeed, whatever that means, that we think if someone else succeeds, that we're no longer qualified to succeed. They got the prize, we can't get it. And I do think that men have an opportunity to demonstrate that we all should have access to the same success, and we lose nothing by helping others thrive. And certainly, I think we should condition our society that it is a manly thing to do to help women arrive at equality and equity. I think that should be a virtue, and I think we can help condition that. And so, and then when, to your other question about the Space Force or space careers, that's something that I think is very, very accessible by anyone. It's a matter of taking the right courses in STEM. It's a matter of, falling in love with those kind of pursuits. And I don't believe that there are those kinds of barriers, but leading up to it, I think there's a lot of barriers. I think the way we condition women and men around the world and different parts of our nation end up conditioning girls to believe that those professions aren't for them, and they shouldn't pursue them because they're not equipped. And that's really what we need to work on. But thank you so much for including me today. I'll hang out as you close up, but yeah, I have to catch a flight
No,
here
I
in just a
know.
few minutes. Yeah, thanks.
No, thank you so much, Raj. And if you are getting late, please feel free to leave. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know you have to take a flight. Thanks, Raj. And Joanna, I'll come to you that your career is very inspiring. It inspired me, and I'm sure a lot of other girls would like to have career like you, which is very impactful and adventurous at the same time. So could you please share how can the girls and women can have career like you, and maybe a little bit quickly your own life story?
Well, basically, this is the question I receive, as I said before, very, very often. How to do what you're doing? Like, basically, you're on holidays all the time, every week, different country. Well, of course, from another perspective, it looks like this. It's not only that, but again, everyone here believes in their cause. So I use this, to make decisions. So I am also here in this venue because I love what you're doing. You're a beautiful person, and you gathered excellent experts, but most importantly, human beings. So if you really believe in something, you will pursue, like, no matter what, no matter who, what your family will say, what your colleagues will say, because again, nobody's in your shoes. So why are you waiting for approval or disapproval? And I know it's hard because nobody is teaching us that. Like, our parents, they were not taught by their parents. So I know it's hard, but again, like this sense of, yes, I made it because that was my own decision, my sovereign decision, and I know that I can make a change. Then keeps you motivating, and then you want to do more and more and more, and you surround yourself with people. You align with the same energy, with people who want to do the same thing. So it's not that I always wanted to do, I don't know, lawfare against Chinese Communist Party. I would never thought I would do that, right? But it all led me here because of my values, because of my, you ask Colonel what to do to do Air Force and stuff, and yeah, that was just it. Like, be consequent, prepare and move on, and and just it. And I say just because those are the basics. But people, they forget. They want some magic recipe how to achieve success. But this is it. When you believe in yourself, when you're consequent, I think this is it. And then you yourself, woman of success, you achieved a lot in not your own country. So I think you also know what I mean.
Thank you, Joanna. I think I heard a lot from every one of you, the values. And I'll end with that, sharing that how these values, like we not like born but brought up with, matters to us. Because I grew up with listening from my childhood, from my paternal grandfather, my father, that we human beings are also kind of animal, but we are called human being. There is a difference. So if we're just born and eat and spread and die, then we are not human, we are just animal. So for that, we need to do a little more to being a human. That's a privilege you're having. So because that does means, like, being a civilian or citizens, giving back to the community. So those are the framework or the values I grow up, and that's bring us all together today. I think that's this, because I had a lot of the values that is so important. So thank you so much, everyone. And again, the thanks word in the English dictionary is not good enough to show my immense gratitude to all of you. And I feel like in my current practice, my personal dharma is my nothing but my gratitude and gratefulness and knowledge and humanity. That's all. So I thank you all for that. I thank you, South Brunswick. And do we have little time for any question, Daniel, from the audience, please?
Yes, definitely. Got like 5
Any-
minutes. If anybody has any questions, they can unmute or throw it in the chat and I can read it out.
Or you can just ask us. We have few more
Yeah.
minutes. Did you see any question in the chat box, Daniel?
I have it, just comments.
Okay. So if we don't have any question from the audience, thank you so much for attending, and this recording will be available after some time. So I will share, our panelists will share, and for bigger impact. And so this is a combination of the action we did and will do, and little bit of intellectual discussion, because for our future generation. Thank you so much, Dr. Joanna, Colin, Raj, and Cindy, Kate, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
coming,
thanks to
everyone.
you for organizing. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Chaiti.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have
Thanks,
a great night. Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Professor.
Nice to see you, Chaiti. Fabulous, brilliant conversation. Thank you for letting me know about it. Really, what a joy to be here.
Thank
Extraordinary.
you. Looking forward to collaborate more in the future.
Yep. I'll send you a message and update you on where we are. There's some really exciting things happening.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.